only 350 cars made in the world.
Right.
And this is one of them.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Andrew.
And I'm Phil.
And today we have the coveted 2022 Acura NSX Type S number 293 of 350. Ain't that right, Phil?
That's right. This is a rare one. And we had the privilege even, to get to take a look at this at Leta Acura here in St. Louis proper. Or
yep, right here in St. Louis.
Yep. And so, I mean, look at this thing, first of all. This is eye-catching. We've had people coming up to us all day while we were setting up and doing video of just asking, like, hey, what's going on here? What is this thing?
Yeah. It definitely catches some eyes, which is kind of crazy to think that, for one, not very many of these sold, given how many that Acura decided to make in 2022.
Yep. Also,
Acura discontinued it.
Yep.
So this is a 2022 with a sticker price of $187,495. But you were talking to the staff here, and the owner, he bought this more of an investment piece because it is definitely going up in value because
it's alluring to take the big payday.
Right.
But if you have number 293 of 350 cars, you kind of want to hold on to that personally. That's a long-term investment right there. And it's a rarity. You're going to be one of 350 people who have one of these. Now,
somebody, I might make them jump out of their seat right now and want to strangle me, but this is essentially a tech person's Eleanor, the Shelby from Gone in 60 Seconds.
Okay.
Whenever you think about the rarity of it, the exclusivity, everything else, you said it best, it's a privilege for us to even be able to stand here and just to sit in the Alcantara seats, which it does have the Alcantara seats, which is what, Lamborghini, Porsche, all of them have been putting in the cars.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nice thing. I like it. It reminds me of suede, but it's supposedly more durable than suede and easier to clean. I've dealt with it. I think my Acura RDX has a little bit of Alcantara in it, but it is a nice material, and it's a green material too, because I don't think a cow has to lose its life for it.
Speaking of green,
not that I even care about that, but some
this,
people do.
This is a hybrid, just so you know.
And yes, so Acura, so the original NSX, some people consider it a failure. I don't necessarily consider it that, because Honda, which people, they'll buy their NSXs and they'll take the Acura badges off and they'll put the Honda on it, because everywhere else but America it's considered a Honda. And the reason why they did that was because basically the way Americans think, they can't get it in their heads that Honda can make a car like this.
Right.
It's all about the branding here in America. And they made this to compete with the Ferrari, because Honda, whenever they first started in Formula One, they actually did they did quite the feat. In their second year, they won Formula One. And in fact, they won it, 4 or 6 times. However, and so Honda, they're like, hey, we learned all this stuff, everybody knows us for reliability, and now we won Formula One. How can we get that technology to the person on the street? And in typical Honda fashion, they wanted it also to be practical. So the trunk in this thing, it can hold supposedly some golf clubs.
That's what they told us.
Because that's, I say supposedly very loosely, you'll see why. And they wanted it to be practical. They didn't want it to be, every 6,000 miles you gotta throw 6 figures down in maintenance. I'm obviously exaggerating. I don't think it costs that much for a Lamborghini or Ferrari, but you service it like you would a Honda or an Acura product. And they managed to keep the costs down low too, whenever you consider it on who it was competing against. And on top of that, they made it out of aluminum, which was a first, the chassis. Very light,
very fast.
Aluminum.
191,000 top speed for this.
The insane thing about it is the Mazda Miata, a little 4-cylinder car, the original first-gen Honda NSX. I know where you're going with this too. Weighed the same amount as that.
Maybe 20 pounds heavier.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but the fact is it had a V6 in it, with around 250 plus horsepower. So the thing, and they tested it all in the Nürburgring too, which is a grueling track.
Now,
and so I think despite the low sales numbers, it still was a success, because it's a benchmark to measure everything else that's in that price point.
like so like the argument of whether or not it's a failure or not aside, it was a really well designed, beautiful looking, originally the first generation,
right.
1990. It was like, imagine they were trying to compete with like the 328, Ferrari 328. That's the Magnum PI Ferrari, I mean GT, but 328. And they wanted to meet or exceed those expectations, and I think they did.
They did.
But ultimately, it didn't sell necessarily the way they probably maybe wanted it to. And the argument may be that it is a little safe, boring to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I don't know if you might disagree with that, but that's ultimately why it didn't probably do as well. Because when you're wanting to buy an exotic car like this, real fast one, you kind of want it to be a little more, I don't know, like a pow, hit you in the face. The first generation was 1990 to probably about 2005. And this second generation, which, what was it, do you remember 2016 maybe was the first year?
2016, I believe, is the first year for it. And then they did it all the way up to 2022.
And so, they're done with this generation.
Right.
They're not done with the NSX.
Nope.
They're going to bring one back. Now,
they are.
I'll tell you something a lot of people who are into cars don't like to hear, but I think you should relax and take a breath. It will be completely electric.
There isn't a single slow electric car out there.
Yeah.
When comparing it to its gasoline counterpart, it's a night and day difference. Everything Tesla makes goes 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. Here with the NSX, you'll notice a lot of interesting features about it. It has the rear engine. They wanted that to happen, or a mid-engined. Mm-hmm. So the engine's more in the middle. It looks awesome because you can see it through the glass. I mean, that's awesome.
I want to point out the little sticker, not sticker, but the little tag that has the number.
The placard.
The placard.
Number
293 of 350.
So you know that we're not just flexing, we're telling the truth. One thing that really catches my eye is I love the functional vents to where, the radiator is at, and intercooler, because this is turbocharged as well. And then on the front here, you don't have a frunk like on some electric cars, but on the front, you will see you got your electric motor, because the interesting thing about this is that it can do all-wheel drive whenever it's running both the electric and the rear engine, which is pretty an interesting thing to do, because whenever you're going into a corner and the car, it's constantly reading and trying to get you your best performance. Mm-hmm. It can give you, if you start losing traction, say on your passenger side rear wheel, then it can take the power from that and then kick on this electric engine on the front and then apply the power to that. So pretty awesome technology there. But you'll see that when you pop the front there. And then of course on the inside, which this is where people get a little upset about, you can see how they obviously wanted to keep it practical, because you see the same touchscreen that's in like my 2016 Honda Civic. I don't have a problem with it. But then again, at the same time, like, I'm about how the car drives and not necessarily like what the touchscreen looks like. And then also the gear selector there, it's all push button. It's the same as what you would find in my 2019 Acura RDX, which I think it looks good. I think it fits the car, but I know a lot of people have a problem with that. And that might be why this hasn't found that success, because someone that's going to throw down $170,000 on this car and they see that it has, a $35,000 or $50,000 gear selector in it, whether it's not the identical one, it still looks the same. You ain't gonna find that on the Lamborghini Gallardo.
And now that brings up the good point, is that just like with the original generation, this one is like its competitors are the 911 GTS, the
Audi R8,
the Huracan R8, all these like top of the creme de la creme of sports cars. So now their approach has been practicality along with the performance. Now maybe that's the catch for people who are buying exotic cars, is they're not really all that interested in practicality. Right. They want a loud, kind of dumb car. Yeah. And maybe this is too smart. It sounds kind of weird to say, but maybe it's just not, and maybe it's not that cartoony enough.
And to play devil's advocate, say you could only own one car, right? And you want an exotic car.
True.
But you don't make exotic car money.
No.
This could be your way to get into that club. And the other thing is you'll find that's typical amongst exotics is you'll see the paddle shifters on the inside. It's got, you know, a sport-inspired steering wheel that also has the carbon fiber and the Alcantara on it. So it checks all the boxes. I love this carbon fiber piece right up here on the top. That's real nice. And it flows whenever you look at the rear end. You see the carbon fiber. I wouldn't call it a wing, I call it a fin.
Yeah.
But it just, I think it, with the black mirrors, it all ties it together. I kind of wish they did this carbon fiber.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is. Another different little feature too is I like how these door handles, they sit flush, but you know, whenever you go to open it, you can just kind of lift them up and then it opens up like so.
And I'll be the first to admit,
nice.
Couldn't have figured it out when I was looking at it myself. I was like, I don't know. I'm afraid to break something.
And you push the button and it locks it too.
Now,
very similar to like the door handles on your Honda or your other Acuras. I like, you know, the wheels and everything that came with it, the stance, and don't forget it's got the Acura dual LED headlights too.
That's true.
Which I think look really good on. So I think it hits all the spots for an exotic. I know that if they said I could have it, I would definitely take it, and I'd drive it quite a bit.
And just in case we didn't specify, I know I mentioned it, I think it's 191,000 top speed, I think 600 horsepower.
191.
What did I say?
191,000.
No, it's 191,000 miles per hour.
There you go.
That's how, we're not lying. It's how fast it goes. No, yeah, what he said, 191 top speed and 600 horsepower. So if you're into that sort of thing, which I assume if you're buying a car like this, that's what you're into. So.
And the other thing I like about it too is, because I see this in some cars that are, you know, not necessarily this price point, but right around this price point, the exhaust is still a real exhaust on the back. So what you see is actually real. Like there's like gas like going through it. The exhaust is flowing through it. Because sometimes they'll skimp out and they'll put what looks like exhaust, but no, those are the actual exhaust tips.
Yeah.
The real question is, I mean, was the NSX really a failure?
It's tough. What do you guys think? You can tell us in the comments. Do you think the NSX was a failure? Do you think the first generation was a failure or a success? One or the other, both, vice versa? Just let us know. Tell us we're stupid if you disagree.
Also, I don't want to forget, but be sure to give Frank Leta Acura here in the St. Louis area a look. I bought my Acura RDX from them, and they were more than helpful, no pressure, very professional. So you may not be in the market for an Acura NSX, but Acura's got a lot of good cars in their lineup, like my RDX. The MDX is a good choice, and the Integra. I've been having my eyes on those quite a bit. But anyways, you got anything else to add to this beautiful car right here?
I think if you, hey, come take a look at it. They have it down here.
Yep, it's right in the showroom.
Take a look. They're not going to kick you out for looking.
Yep.
So yeah, and like I said, let us know what you think. You hate it? You disagree with everything we said? Let us know.
Let us know in the comments.
Doesn't hurt us any. That maybe our feelings a little bit, but
we empower you to do that. Yeah. That's what the comment section's for.
Yeah.
Hey, as always, I'm Andrew.
And I was Phil.
And we're out.
Bye.
It's a bald eagle, ain't it?
My eyes aren't good enough for that. It's a big bird.
It's a bald eagle.
Look.
Yeah, it is. There's a white tail.
Hey.
So I guess we get to go drive it now, right?
Yeah, they're not around us seeing us.
They can't see us.
Yeah.
The camera's not on, right?
Yeah.
All right. Hop in if you can figure out how to open that up.